How you doing, guys? We're back. My name is Mark Ray Redmond,
My name is Hobson McCain.
and this is America. Today we're starting off with our
Fake news segment. We're going to be talking about how, I'm not going to say the whole right, but how Donald Trump and his colleagues have been saying that the separation of families was enforced by, or started off with the Democrats. Fake news.
fake news.
Now, the detention of immigrants was started under the Bush administration and was continued under the Obama administration. These are facts. They did put immigrants into detention centers. However, the Bush administration had a zero tolerance policy of sorts. They would prosecute individuals criminally as long as they didn't have children. Because, as you know, once you are put into the prison system, you can't hold your child with you in jail. So they have to put them into, government custody. And so the Bush administration said that if you're coming across and you don't have children, you will be prosecuted criminally. The Obama administration furthered that policy, but they said that they weren't going to do criminal prosecutions unless they found that there was a urgent reason to. And actually, the Obama administration did talk about. They said they talked about it for 5 minutes, separating children at the border as a deterrent policy, and they said that this was not how they morally they just couldn't do it. So that's pretty much the end of it. But before you say that one little piece, I just want to say that there were instances under the Obama administration where children were separated from families, but these were in extenuating circumstances, such as they had no way to verify that this individual was the child's parent, or they felt that the child would be in danger if he was left in the custody of this individual. So they were very few and far in between when children would be separated from their families, and they could only detain minors for 20 days maximum. So
there's more to it to make it fake news as well. Because if you just read the headlines, you'll think that Donald Trump signed some papers to reunite all the families that he split up. First things first, I'm almost positive that all of the families that have been split up up to this point are not going to be affected by the law that he signed into play. And the way that it's going to work, actually, I'll take that back. They will be affected if they choose to be affected, because the law that Donald Trump signed into place allows those who are, what is the right way to put it, those who are applying for asylum in the United States, asylum being, political refugeeship, basically, like we'll take them in because they're a political refugee. If you're applying for asylum and you've been split up with your child during your process, you can withdraw your application for asylum as well as your child's and go back to where you came from. They won't reunite you here unless you get through the process and your child gets through the process, which we all know could take quite some time. So that's putting people in a position to where now, if they want to see their child within the year, their best option is to go back to wherever they came from, where they're a refugee. They left because they didn't feel welcome in their homeland, or they would have stayed. They wouldn't have been trying to come here, especially under those circumstances where they had to come here illegally. There has to be a reason for them to be here. So for you to say, I'll reunite you with your child if you go home, to me, doesn't seem like something we should be giving him a pat on the back for. It seems like I'm chasing the headline and making it seem like he's helping everybody, when in reality, he's not reuniting those families unless they go where they came.
And just to further the amount of fake news that is surrounding this topic, Donald Trump very prominently suggested that there was nothing he or any Republicans could do to stop the separation of families at the border. Um, and you can look up interviews, you can look up comments from his administration, from Sarah Huckabee Sanders. They were pretty prominent that it was the Democrats that were keeping this from happening. Then,
I have a question.
yeah,
The president is a Republican, correct?
yes,
Is the House the majority Republican?
yes,
Republican? The Congress, like the Senate?
yes,
You know,
yes,
and the Supreme Court, right?
yeah,
Can
and
we
the
just
Supreme Court as well, 5-4.
how can you possibly say that it's the Democrats doing this? They have, I hate to say it, but as of right now, the Democrats don't really have any power to get anything done. And that's the reason why things are going the way they are right now, because Donald Trump's getting to do what he wants to, because all of his friends have all the power everywhere.
Yeah, and there are some ways that Democrats can get in the way here and there. With when you have to have 2/3 majority and stuff like that. But regardless, Donald Trump didn't even go through any of that. He showed that all along, all he had to do was sign a piece of paper. And this is interesting because he didn't sign a piece of paper that enforced the zero tolerance policy. He just told Border Patrol agents that if anybody comes into the country, regardless if they have a 1-month-old child or 7, 9-year-old children, they're going to be prosecuted as criminals, which means they're going to be locked up in jail. And he signed away that act. They're no longer gonna separate people people who are coming across the border. They're not gonna be separated anymore. They're gonna be detained together. And just like Mark said, since May, there have been over 2,300 kids separated from their families. And of those 2,300, I believe a little bit more than 500 kids have been reunited. So that's less than 25% have been reunited with their family. And a lot of these kids will never be reunited with their family because of the screwed up way our justice system works. If I don't know if you guys knew this, but if you're incarcerated for more than 18 months, it used to be a year, but if you're incarcerated for more than 18 months, then you lose your parental rights. And unless they can sign your child over to a legal guardian, a legal family member, then you have no way of knowing what foster care system they got put into, what sponsor they got transferred with, because you don't have any parental rights. So you can go ask and say, where's Hobson Jr.? Well, he'd be Hobson the fourth in my case, but where's Hobson the fourth? And they would tell me, because I've been incarcerated for more than 18 months, sorry, Mr. McCain, you can't know. You legally don't have the right to know where your child is. So these kids can get just lost in the system of the American Justice Department. So,
but the hell is that Donald Trump signs an executive order to reunite families.
That's not true. He said that the separation of they're not going to separate children anymore coming through.
You're right.
So, that's fake news in itself. And then
Go ahead.
Go ahead. You're right.
I'm almost sure that I've seen it on at least Facebook, because you know how people do. We're advocates for clicking on links. But I'm almost positive I've seen people saying that he's reuniting families. I think I've seen articles that said that you have to check your source. I have to check mine. But I think that there's a bit of a miscommunication between sources about what exactly the executive order is doing, and that's what we're kind of making this video. It doesn't reunite families. That wasn't what it was for. Like he just said, that's not what the order said.
And further, the order also is advocating for the indefinite detention of these families, saying that because, like I said, under the 1997 Flores settlement, it called for improved facilities for unaccompanied minors, and among other things, said that you could only hold minors for 20 days until you release them to a sponsor or a family member or something of the sort. now that they're not separating families, but unaccompanied minors, people who come across, or children who come across without any parents, they will be able to be detained indefinitely. The families that come across together will be able to be detained indefinitely. And that's, if this all passes. So that is that really a win in terms of moral justice?
No.
I don't know. I don't think so. Especially if you look at some of the facilities that these people are being kept in. I know the Flores Agreement said that they should improve facilities. If these are the improved facilities, then I would have hated to see what they were being kept in before. But it's not something that is abnormal in terms of American history. This is something that's pretty frequent. Not pretty frequent. I'm not gonna say that, but it has happened periodically throughout history. So anyway, and more, the zero tolerance policy and this topic has been talked about for a few weeks. Very recently, Donald Trump tweeted that any immigrant that's caught coming across the border should be sent back without any trial or any judicial process. For the President of the United States to tweet something like that, something that's so unconstitutional that it's sickening, is very disturbing. Because this has implications far and beyond immigration. Not to say that the implications for immigration are to be diminished, but anybody in the country, unless they have their birth certificate on them, if you're near the border, if this policy got put into effect, theoretically, if you're near the border, you could just be grabbed up and said, "Oh, he's an immigrant. Send him back to wherever." And they could, if they picked me up and said, "Oh, he didn't have his birth certificate, and basically he didn't have his papers. He's an immigrant. Let's send him back." There's no judicial process. There's no legal process. I can't talk to anybody about it. I can't prove that I'm a citizen because there's nobody to prove it to. So this opens the door for a lot of really, really evil things that have happened in history before. Maybe not here every single time, but here before and in other places that we have condemned. And hopefully everything will work out, and that tweet will be washed away like so many others of Donald Trump saying ignorant things. Hopefully it'll be washed away like those tweets were. But just the fact that mentality is spinning around up there as the President of the United States is disturbing, to say the least. But with that, stay safe out there. To all our brothers and sisters with good intentions that are trying to come up from the border, we stand with y'all. We don't think these things should be happening to you. But
it's inhumane.
Yeah, it's inhumane.
Just because someone's not an American citizen does not mean they don't have human rights. We shouldn't be treating these people like they're not people because they're not citizens of the United States. To justify separating someone from their child because they broke the rule and crossed the line when they weren't supposed to me, it seems inhumane.
But anyway, it's important to recognize how difficult the process is of getting into the country legally, and some of these people don't have that much time. So, to assume that they're here trying to rape, murder, and pillage like the Europeans did when they first settled in America is, that's kind of rough. But anyway, with that, leave us your comments, your thoughts, like, share, subscribe, and give us some topic suggestions. You know, we're open ears. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch y'all next time.